Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Ski Instructor Podcast. My name is Dave Burrows and I'm the director and owner of Snow Pro Ski School based here in Valdilier in Switzerland. Hope you're all well. I see blue sky briefly because it's been raining and snowing here for about 3 weeks straight. My cat is going bananas. It's just prowling around the house completely pissed off because it can't go outside. And it loves to be outside. So any opportunity it gets where it's actually not raining, it just it heads outside, kills something, as if like in protest. And we've had like a bunch of birds and mice and all sorts of stuff in the house in the last few weeks. But it looks like the weather is finally broken with this kind of mega storm that we had last night. It sort of feels like it was the tail end of that period of terrible weather that's come through here. And it's left all the mountaintops white. It's snowing. I went up my trials bike the other day, all the way up to snow on the ground at about 1,400 meters around here, which is pretty cool. Up at Glacier 3000, I went skiing up there last week. Conditions are absolutely fabulous up there, and I'm hoping to get up there again either tomorrow or next week, once all the high winds and stuff have finally cleared off and get some turns going. So yeah, all going well, and it's looking good for the winter. It's also going a bit cold next week as well, which I think will help a lot of things. So here I am with two things. One, last episode was the one that took us past 100,000 downloads of this podcast series. I am eternally grateful for anyone who's ever taken the time to have a listen of it, and I really appreciate everyone who has, and I still can't really believe that there's so many people that would be interested to listen to kind of my ramblings and the super interesting stuff that my guests have got to say. So thank you for that. If you've ever taken the time to listen, really appreciate it. Like I say, I'm just trying to leave something here behind which is useful for people, and those people that are maybe coming up, into the ski industry, trying to find all this information that it took me so long to find out, and maybe we can help people to have a bit of a shortcut and pass on all this amazing knowledge that people have, that they've been so kind to share with me. This week, episode 59, I've got a really interesting interview. I've just listened back to it, and I didn't really skip it like I normally do during the editing process. It was so interesting. I kind of listened to the whole thing straight through. It's with John Eames, and John was the BASI Telemark director, and also ran his own company, which was called the Piste and Telemark Ski Company. He's kind of winding down his kind of interest in skiing now. Not interested in skiing as such, but business interests and stuff. But we've got here just a really interesting interview covering so much ground. His background and all of the amazing stories that he has to tell going back in time. And also this episode is quite Telemark centric, so you would have noticed I've been banging on about this for ages. I recorded this in May, and I wanted to get just like one solid episode where we can talk about this, and it's done. So there's a lot of Telemark chat in this one. If that's not for you, fine, but I really enjoyed making it, and there's a lot of kind of crossover Telemark Alpine chat in there, which is probably going to be really interesting for those of you that are curious about it. So enjoy that. I don't have much else to report. I've got some other sort of long-standing interviews already in the bag that I've got enough here to take me through at least to May, which is great because this winter's looking really busy. And I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to interview people. So lots coming up, lots of really interesting interviews with lots of really interesting people. And without further ado, let's get on with episode 59 with John Eames. Enjoy. Well, John, welcome to the Ski Instructor Podcast. You're based there in North Wales, right? Did you say?
Yes, we live near Carnarvon in North Wales, so quite nicely up in the hills, so we get a fantastic view. I mean, at the moment I'm looking out over the RSE and Anglesey.
Oh, wow.
And we've got the mountains just behind us, so it's a lovely environment, but the only problem with North Wales is that the skiing is limited.
Well, I'm sure I saw on social media this year that there was a couple of bold souls who managed to get some skiing.
Occasionally. I mean, the best time recently was January before last, the COVID winter.
Right.
And we had some really good snow literally up the back on our first hills.
Yeah.
And we were able to go up, tour up and ski down entirely legally.
Yeah.
No problems about travel and all this sort of thing. And we had some really nice conditions with skiing up on the mountain behind with views over the RSE. It was great. But rare.
I was going to say, it sounds idyllic, it sounds kind of almost Norwegian.
Well, it is almost, but the number of days that you could compare to a typical winter in Norway on average is probably about one.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
If you're lucky.
Have you always lived there, or is it
we've lived in North Wales since 2001, I think, and then we were living in West Yorkshire, around Haworth.
Okay.
And before that, I was travelling around a lot. I was working out in Scotland a lot with outdoor education and being involved in skiing as well, Nordic and Telemark skiing as it was at the time.
Yeah.
So that's over my sort of skiing career. It's mainly Scotland, Yorkshire, and up here, but obviously working abroad as well.
Well, some might say that Scottish and Northern English skiing is real skiing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when all of us are hiding in the cafe, all the Scots are out there.
It breeds a tough skiing character, I suppose. But I mean, I've had days in Cairngorm which have been absolute shite.
Yes.
But, there's been days when I've been skiing in Scotland or touring in Scotland when it's just brilliant. Absolutely. The best day you could hope for.
Yeah, some of the images out of I can't remember his name, Blair Aitken's group, the Scottish Backcountry Facebook group. Some of the images that are just absolutely extraordinary.
I mean, that's what we used to get, sort of between mid-November and mid-May. Yeah. When I was living in Scotland, you could normally do something, even if it was only a patch of snow.
Yeah.
But as the winters do vary,
for sure.
They vary a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're living up there, you grab a chance. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what was your sort of journey to becoming involved in snow sports? Where did you start, and how did you? What was the? Tell me the journey.
Oh gosh, how much time have we got?
We've got as long as you want.
I can give a sort of a fairly potted version, and if you need to know more, I can add embellish, as it were. I mean, for me, my mum and dad, they were very much into the hills and walking, all the rest of it. So I just had a natural, love to be up in the hills and the mountains. But for me, snow was something that always fascinated me and attracted me. I mean, that's why I've just no idea, but it did. And I just felt I wanted to ski. I just knew I'd enjoy it. But my mum and dad, they weren't so keen, and it was all too expensive and all this sort of thing. But eventually, I was, I think it was between jobs, quite a while ago. And I thought, right, well, I'll go up to Aviemore and I'll get some work up there and learn how to ski, which is what I did, basically. So I had 3 months, sort of February, March, April, up in Aviemore working at the youth hostel there. And just hired kit, went up in Cairngorm, looked at people, listened in from a distance, and I did my first skiing, and that was that was on Alpine kit, because at the time it didn't, I was ignorant of anything different.
Yeah.
But the guy who ran the youth hostel, who's by the name of Cameron McNeish, I don't know, he's quite into outdoor magazines and media and stuff in the past. But anyway, he said, somebody with your interest, because I was really into hill walking and climbing, alpine climbing, all sorts. He said, well, you want to go Nordic skiing? So I said, oh, okay. So he lent me a pair of Nordic skis, and I went off with a friend of his, I think, and did some Nordic skiing in the Smay Valley. And so that seemed pretty cool as well. So I had sort of two really quite strong interests. And moving on from there, after that I was working back down south for a few years, but then I went to Bangor University, just up here, and did a postgraduate certificate in education.
Okay.
And where you can specialise in outdoor activities, which was brilliant. And so the skiing started to develop a bit more during that year. And then after that, I got work up in Scotland in outdoor education centres where they were actually teaching alpine and Nordic skiing. So this is coming back a bit. This is in the 80s, right? I'm not young. So this is in the 1980s, and where I was working, they taught alpine and Nordic skiing. There's a really good winters then. And about that time, Telemark, which had been had a rebirth in North America, because obviously the Norwegians discovered it or developed it, and that sort of renaissance in Telemark was coming back to Europe. So with friends up in Scotland, we thought, okay, let's try that. We were skiing on Nordic metal-edged equipment in the cairngorms and going everywhere, and in the total state of ignorance, wearing Nordic cambered skis, about 50 mil wide, 55 mil wide, 10 mil of side cut, leather boots with laces, that sort of stuff. And we were doing the four tops of the cairngorms. We were skiing on the west coast around Glencoe and all that sort of thing, and getting down using sort of snow plows and wedgie parallels and less wedgie parallels and this sort of thing. Yeah. So we thought, well, let's try this Telemark. So we started teaching ourselves to Telemark, and sort of thought, oh, that's quite fun as well. So we started doing more and more of that. And then in 1988, I think it was, I gave up where I was working and went up to Ivanhoe and worked for a setup called what was then Highland Guides. Okay. And they were specialists in Nordic and Telemark as it was. So they did loads of stuff up there, very, very committed. So I worked for them for 3 winters and ran the ski school for the last couple of winters. But from then and going onwards, Telemark was in the ascendancy, through the 90s and into the noughties. So it was at that time, after I'd done 3 winters up in Aviemore with Bonnie, my partner, who we've been working with ever since. Yeah. We decided to set up on our own and be based down in Yorkshire, because at that point the Scottish winters went quite bad for a while, and we started running trips abroad. So we were running to Norway initially with the sort of Nordic focus, but offering Telemark as well. And then the Telemark thing was growing and growing, and we got some good contacts in the Alps, and in particular in Latviel and Val d'Aosta. Right. And started running trips there, and so the professional side of what I was doing really started in the early 90s and ran up until the present day-ish. Okay. We're trying to do less and retire, but I sort of enjoy the skiing so much. I still like to go.
I was going to say it's tough when people keep knocking on your door wanting to do stuff.
Well, we've got some very loyal clients, so we're running trips now to areas where we can still run trips since Brexit. Yeah.
Yes,
and,
that too.
and with if you like, these are almost like friends. So it's great to go out and run some of these trips in some quite esoteric places like Macedonia and Kosovo and Greece and Arctic Norway and places like that, where with the Brexit thing, we don't have any issues.
No, of course, because so to drill down on that, just if we're just going to tangent on that, so that presumably you cannot. Is there are rules on you not being able to bring groups over and teach in places like France, Italy, various others since Brexit? Is that
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you must be aware of that. People, BASI instructors working in the Alps. I mean, as I think I fully understand it, is you either need to be a resident of the country, get the work permits. You also have a carte pro, of course, if you're in the French areas. And for us, it's just impossible. Because we've never decided to base ourselves in one place. There's never been enough clients to do that.
Yeah.
But the clients that we do have do like to go to different places. So, be able to move, say, around Europe in effect, and take our clients to different locations, whether it's for touring or skills courses or whatever, has worked for us. So we've not sort of rocked up in Val d'Isère and stayed there for the last 20 years, and if we were still there, we would have residency and all the rest of it, and we'd still be able to operate. So having a sort of a peripatetic business model, if that's the right way to say it. We're in a position where it wouldn't work. It might work, but somebody would find out, and then it wouldn't work and be very expensive. One way or another, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed in life, though, is that sometimes from adversity in that way, positive situations come out of it. Would it be fair to say that since you aren't able to go to the sort of classic places anymore, you've started to discover some more interesting places? You were talking about.
Oh, sure. I mean, hardly, but we were running to some of these other places anyway because they were interesting and really good fun to go to. It's partly the travel experience and the cultural experience to say go skiing in Greece, and there's some pretty good skiing there. Some really nice skiing. As long as you're not into resort-based skiing where you just want to do miles and miles and miles on the piste.
Yeah.
But if you want to go, if you're interested in going somewhere with a small ski area, so you've got something to do if the weather is bad, which has good access to off-piste, off the lifts or with a short skin, or access to touring terrain, then some of these areas down the Balkans, Arctic Norway, Iceland, places like that, they're just wonderful. The whole experience is just so good. But if people want to go to the Alps, that's fine, as long as they don't come to our places too often. It's also nice to get these places quite quiet as well, and you can really relax and enjoy the hospitality, the culture, the food, the wine in these places, which is just always just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But certainly the Brexit issue has pushed us even more in that direction, for sure.
Okay, but presumably the people that are into that kind of thing, are interested in exploring that kind of, they're not going to want to go and do a week in Val d'Isère doing off-piste, right? Like it's pretty...
Exactly. I mean, it's a bit of a mixture. I mean, when we were running stuff in the Alps, we, I don't know, had a week in Andermatt or whatever, just doing off-piste and day tours and stuff. I mean, those people would also say, I don't know, do something a little bit more exotic, like come to Greece or Georgia, even to the Caucasus Mountains there. It was partly the off-piste experience, if you like, but the sort of input that we can give, which is Telemark specific, of course, and their own desire to go somewhere different and travel and have a good travel experience along with their skiing.
It is. I think the travel element is very important. I think when you run, I don't know. I mean, I'm running a ski school, so I tend to get trapped in the same sort of places. It's very difficult to kind of get out and go somewhere new. But some of my best days this last season, just gone, were just short day trips that I took to other places. You know, I had a day, and I was like, right, now I really, instead of going to the office, or instead of, you know, looking at this big pile of paperwork that I've got to do, I'm gonna go somewhere else. I went to a place called Champex-Lac in just, you know, around the corner from me. Never been there before. It's only got 20 k's of Piste, but the views are extraordinary. I went up one of the most amazing chairlifts I've been up for ages. It was really steep, and I was just like, got to the top, deserted cafe, got my Telemark skis, and I'm just like, I'm having a great time. And if I'd left it 5 minutes, or, you know, stepped into my office, I would never have gone. Yeah. And I think part of, you know, once you've, it's one of the, I think the paradoxes of doing skiing for a living is that you very often just end up skiing the same slopes over and over and over, and you don't get out very often to other places.
I mean that's if you like another reason why we didn't even think of trying just to stay in one resort and run a business from wherever it might be, because there's just so much out there, and you know, exactly like saying, we've made the opportunity and also provided the opportunity to our customers to visit. You know, even in the Alps, there's certainly, like you're saying, there's so many of these small resorts which just give a wonderful experience. You know, away from the crowds. You know, whether the crowds are queuing to go up or the crowds are on the Piste coming down, and you know, find some nice terrain, untracked off Piste as well. Yeah, I mean, because, you know, especially these days, it's harder and harder to find because everybody's doing it. But to go to some of these small places is one way of finding that you know, the better snow quality for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you set that up, and then how did your sort of journey within snow sports carry on from there?
Well, when you say my journey within snow sports,
I suppose what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to take you from, you know, a guy who decided that he was doing outdoors in the Cairngorms to, you know, eventually BASI Telemark trainer director. Yeah. Like, when did you start getting involved in the tuition?
Well, I mean, the tuition started when I was working at the outdoor centres up in Scotland, because where I was working, you were teaching kids skiing anyway. Yeah. So the BASI journey, if you like, that certainly started around then, because the principal of the centre required us to get, you know, qualified as it was then, which was fine. So, you know, we got qualified at the lowest levels in alpine and in Nordic skiing. But once I had my 3 sort of winters in Scotland, and then started working with Bonnie, my partner, and, you know, with our own setup, the sort of the BASI thing grew and grew, because we needed qualifications which are more appropriate for what we're doing, and what we're doing abroad and this sort of thing. So, you know, went up the upper levels, you know, with Nordic. Telemark didn't exist as a discipline, you know, back in the early 90s. But because Telemark was developing so strongly as I suppose you could say as a specialist activity within Nordic skiing, or within free heel skiing in the broadest sense, a lot of the practitioners, certainly up in Scotland, were thinking, well, the Nordic approach, the pure Nordic approach, isn't really working for modern telemarking as it was developing, because we were using heavier boots, we were using alpine skis by then, with you know, with the telebindings that were available at the time. Yeah, we were focusing our activity in the ski area. So, if you like, it was an alpine type of skiing, but on free heel equipment, which was, you know, quite different from skiing on lightweight Nordic equipment through the woods.
Yes.
And of that style. So with a bit of discussion with BASI then, eventually BASI Telemark was set up in 1994. And the discipline, as we know now, was from that time. Once Telemark developed in its modern guise, as something which is different from Alpine, obviously from snow, but in particular from Nordic, as it was historically.
In my limited experience, in my limited experience of cross country skiing, it doesn't, apart from a slight freedom of the heel and where the binding is fixed to the ski. There isn't much crossover between Telemark and Nordic, I would say, is there?
You have to be careful what you speak.
Well, yeah, okay. Like I said, my opinion is my opinion, but it strikes me that...
Crossover, if you like, if I was to... Well, not so much now, but I used to... When Bonnie and I were working in Norway, for example, we'd go out with the clients, okay, we're doing a Nordic day, we're going up these tracks, we go up high, quite high up in the mountain on the tracks, and at the end of the day, we can ski down through the resort back to where we're staying.
Okay.
So using that Nordic equipment, we were skiing down, blue and red Piste back to the village. So on pure, I use the word sort of pure Nordic equipment or pure cross country equipment. On that, you can do everything.
But you wouldn't necessarily want to.
But you may not necessarily want to, or you might think actually, to ski down a blue run even, back into the village on cross country track equipment. Well, it's a good challenge. Let's give it a go. And you can ski down parallel. You can ski down Telemark. It's just harder.
Yes.
You can do exactly the same movements and have the same focuses. Edge, pressure, rotation, and this sort of thing. But because you're on a ski which is quite narrow, it has very little side cut or zero side cut on, and also has a Nordic camber, which makes it very stiff in the middle. You just have to work the ski an awful lot more, be more precise with your body management, etc. And you can do it, but it's not many people choose to do it because it is quite difficult. But what I'm saying is, for the Nordic skiing discipline, the Nordic discipline, the cross-country discipline, as BASI now call it, you can do everything, but the focus is certainly on travelling as opposed to skiing down hills. So if you like, the link is still there, the historical link is there, and we could say, well, it's all free heel skiing, and we're just using different equipment depending on what sort of a day we want. So I might go with Nordic equipment to ski on the tracks in the valley. The next day I might use heavyweight Telemark equipment to ski the bumps in the resort or whatever it might be.
Yes.
But the free heel, if you like, is the one thing that is always there with those two disciplines, and obviously different to any other discipline.
Yeah,
there is a link.
And is that why they were sort of nested together historically?
Absolutely.
Right?
And then, as I was saying, that's why from the point of view of ski instruction and activity areas, etc., in 1994 we decided, well, actually there really needs to be a separate discipline because it really can't handle both of these to the required level in the amount of time that we have, and with the amount of interest that there would be for somebody to do the whole caboodle, if you like. So people tend to be qualified in Nordic skiing or tend to be qualified in Telemark. Some people are dual qualified, but they have gone through both lines of courses, both lines of qualification.
As you are, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, my Nordic qualification is at the top level. My Telemark qualification is at the top level. My Halpine qualification is not quite at the top level, but
we'll forgive you for that.
That's fine.
Yeah. So you went up and up within BASI. You finished off the qualifications, and then presumably you went forward to some sort of trainer selection in both.
Yeah, well, I was originally more qualified in Nordic, and there was actually a Nordic director and a Nordic trainer back in the 90s, early 90s. And then, Telemark developed. I was a part of it. There was a group of about a dozen of us who set up BASI Telemark. And from that initial formative group, roughly half of us, we all qualified ourselves as BASI Telemark instructors because we could and we sort of had to. And from that group, about half of us, we decided that, someone's got to run these early courses. So some of us started training the early courses. And then subsequent to that, as new trainers came into the system, some fell by the wayside, and new people wanted to train in Telemark. Then there was a more rigorous approach, following on from that. So I've always stayed very much involved with BASI Telemark. So the first Telemark manual I put together, so that was back in the late 90s, I think it was, or somewhere around then. And there's been 2 or 3 incarnations of that since. So the latest one, which is 2017, I think. So that was quite a sort of a team job and getting it together. But the last incarnation, I thought I could put it together and put the final touches on. So I've been involved with BASI Telemark since the start, so it's 1994. And I think I have the second iteration of the BASI Telemark manual, which was given to me by. It's around here somewhere. I'm looking at my desk over here. It's in that big pile of paperwork over there, so I can't come to it right now. But Joe Beer gave it to me on my BASI Telemark 1. The first one was like A5 size?
Yeah, this one is an A5 size. It's blue on the cover, I think. Blue and something. I could find it.
It's half A4.
I'm not sure.
A5 or maybe even A6. There's sort of a ring binder to it.
Yes. There it is. There it is. Look at this. It's right there. This is a
pride of place.
This is a real big interlude for the listener. So this... British Telemark Instructor Handbook, version 1.0.
Is it covered in a bit of plastic?
Yeah, it is covered in a bit of plastic. It's got a ring binder and the cover is blue.
And there's a photo on the front of 2 guys telemarking.
It's got a photo of the Matterhorn and something. Second edition.
Second edition.
So I'm a second edition guy. And I remember distinctly speaking to Joe about this, because Joe was sort of saying to me, well, we've done this, but we're not 100% sure that the central theme as such is correct.
Yeah, I mean, all that has developed over the years, which is absolutely fine. That's an important part of the evolution of something which we now feel works quite well. And also the manual itself has changed from something being rather all-inclusive to being something which works alongside the manual, the main BASI manual. So there's loads and loads of generic stuff which we don't need to reprint, and in terms of resources and reading and everything else.
Yeah.
All the teaching stuff we can refer across. All the Alpine stuff, which is very much a part of what we teach as well, we can refer across as well. So there's no point in sort of repeating all that, except to have a few notes to say if you're doing a snowplow turn on free-heel skis, you just need to focus a bit more on this, that, and the other. But the tech, all that side of the technique is the same. So the current manual is quite a brief one, but succinct and appropriate, i.e. it deals with everything from a parallel turn onwards. So it's how you progress into your early telemarks and develop your telemarks. And rather than having a single central theme, we go four ways. We have a choice, different ways of developing your telemark or introducing a telemark, and then coming back together with, at the early stages, medium ranges telemarks on a blue slope, and then from there you can develop into the strands, very much as you do on alpine.
It's interesting. I might go back through this, and or maybe I did try and pick up a later version of this.
Well, the simplest thing is probably to go to the BASI website, and you can get the latest version online.
Oh, right, okay.
Because what you've got there in your hand has changed an awful lot.
Yeah. And this was what I remember discussing with Joe, because I remember, because I've had Joe on this podcast before, and he was saying to me that, well, there's two things. There's one I was going to come to you, I was going to talk to you about this later, but we're here now, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
One of them was the Telemark Central Theme progression that's in this book, and obviously I'm working from old information, and the discussion that we had was that we're not actually 100% sure that the plough is that relevant to the Telemark lead change necessarily.
No,
because
I mean, you could say it's not.
It's not really, is it? Because your weight is more 50-50 distributed in a telemark turn, whereas you're looking in a snowplow turn to be it's like the beginner slopes, for want of a better word, of trying to get your weight over the outside ski.
Yeah.
Whereas we're using the inside ski a lot more in a telemark turn, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, as a rough guide, 50-50, yeah. That can vary, but there's certainly, I mean, what you're saying there is entirely correct. But to give you some context to why we have these four different approaches, a plough to telemark being one of them, and we also have parallel to telemark, what we call a fan progression, which sort of, again, I can explain all of them, and also what we call teleworms. So when we were starting out in Scotland, and we sort of have decided to keep on to this, is offering, if you like, different pathways for an instructor or an aspirant instructor, so they actually have a choice of approaches which they can mix and match. So that's the idea. You don't necessarily have to only do plough to telemark approach, because, as you're saying, it may not be appropriate, or you may not have the clients who can handle it, or the terrain, or whatever. Whereas if you had some strong alpine skiers, you could say do a parallel to telemark approach, and you don't have to worry about the plough at all. But for other clients who are, I don't know, less familiar in the, less experienced in the downhill skiing, and who are a bit tentative of going through the fall line, to have something which they feel comfortable with, so they can control their speed in a more comfortable way for them. Then to have a plough to telemark is not a bad idea. But having said that, it does require some significant adjustments, and just like you're saying, just how you stand on the skis and how you weight the skis, and obviously how you maneuver the skis from a plough into a telemark position is quite a complex maneuver to make sure that the movements are accurate, but also that the way you're edging the skis is accurate as you go from a plough to a telemark. And that's, if you like, it is quite complex, but if you like, it does have its place. So, to give aspiring instructors the option, well, you can do this if you want, and this is how you do it. But if you don't want to do that because you've got some strong clients, then you use one of the other approaches.
Yes. Because I think isn't that I mean, it strikes me that this is the thing about trying to teach Telemark, is that the people that come to you are fairly unlikely to be complete beginners at skiing and sliding around on snow, right? They're more likely to be strong alpine skiers trying something new.
Sorry, Dave, I was interrupting you.
No, don't worry.
Just to pick up on that point, over the last 30 plus years, I'm just trying to think if we've had a raw beginner off the street coming to do telemark skiing.
Yeah, it's probably none, isn't it?
I'm thinking rapidly, and I can't think of one.
No.
But what I can say is that we've had quite a range of people from, say, a Nordic background, alpine background, and also snowboard, who want to do telemark.
Yeah.
And because you have such a range of experiences, if you like, in terms of sliding on snow, but also a range of experiences of perhaps the client's comfortable or familiar skiing environment, perhaps comparing a strong alpine skier to a cross-country skier who's more used to skiing in the woods, or that sort of thing. To have a range of approaches which you can adapt, adjust, mix and match sort of thing for this range of clients that we get or have had in the past. It has proved quite useful. A very fantastic challenge for us. How can we make it work for this person because of their background. And so one of the things that we have with the BASI Telemark system now, the Telemark progressions as they're called, rather than a Telemark central theme, because we don't have that central theme. We do the Alpine central theme, and then we diversify once we Telemark, just to put it into context.
Okay.
So, so historically, one of the things that we've had, say, just to generalise, Nordic skiers have come to us. They've done some touring. They've been touring in Scotland, or they've been hot touring in Norway. Where you do have to go down hills sometimes, and some of the downhills can be quite long. The snow can be quite icy. You get occasional steep bits. So they've come to us and they said, "Well, we want to develop our telemark." So we say, "Great." And you take them out on a green run or a blue run in the Alps, and you realise that they're not fully knowledgeable and experienced of actually sliding down a hill on a pair of skis.
Yeah.
So that can be a challenge. So typically you take them up the easiest slope, obviously, in the first day, and let's see what you can do, sort of thing. And they travel everywhere in a narrow snowplow because that was their default.
Yeah, that's what works,
when they were skiing. And that narrow snowplow would perhaps have a slightly sort of knock-kneed look to it as well.
Yeah.
So you're going everywhere on your inside edges. So for some people, with a bit of negotiation and explanation, we said, well, we can't teach you telemark just yet. We need to teach you how to slide and ski and get some basic alpine techniques first, which will provide a whole range of new skill sets and as well as techniques for your next journey in Norway, for example. And normally, sometimes they were resistant, but normally they would understand that. So at the end of a week, they'll be skiing, they're on alpine style equipment with telemark bindings. Just let me add, because that makes it a lot easier. But at the end of a week, they'll be skiing a blue run or an easy red run, linking nice parallels, comfortable with going slow and going fast, varying the rhythm and all the rest of it. and they'd had a really great time. And we said, okay, now you've got these skills, now we can make it more complex and add in the telemark, because telemark is more complex, there's no denying it. It's more complex physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to do something complex and you just haven't got the understanding of ski design, how a ski works and how you maneuver the ski to make it do what you want to do. So that was always quite an interesting process. Whereas just to try and balance the picture a bit, with alpine skiers coming typically, they would have a lot more confidence in skiing and they wanted to free heel equipment. Once they've got used to not having a heel binding to help them stand up, as it were, they would ski around quite nicely. But once they started to make that telemark shape and start to make telemark turns, because they were so, with a typical or traditional alpine background, they'd always be skiing on the outside ski.
Yes.
Which is the lead ski in telemark as well. The rear ski would be unweighted, and they would go into a spin or fall over. So the big challenge with skiers with that background was getting to be, to ski on two skis, be two-footed in their skiing, two-footed with the edge pressure, rotation, control, and all the rest of it. Once you got through that, then where you go, we have some good times.
I think that's quite an interesting thing, isn't it? Because the immediate thing that anyone who is non-telemark says to you is, they always say the same thing. So isn't that tough on your legs or something? A variation of that phrase. Doesn't it burn your thighs? And I'm like, well, a little bit, but actually, if you're doing it right, it's not because it's two-footed. So you're kind of I think you're spreading the effort between 2 feet more so than on alpine.
Sort of, but to be honest, as a committed long time telemark skier, there are situations where I will choose to parallel ski, and one of those is if I'm knackered, basically. If at the end of a long day, for whatever reason, whether it's touring or off-piste or skiing, or piste skiing or whatever, if the snow gets a little bit steep or challenging, or I'm just feeling knackered, I will parallel ski down, and I'll be able to ski down, safely and under control, and without sort of challenging my muscles. So I think there is a difference. The big challenge, if you like, is once telemark skiing is to make it as efficient as possible and as less energy demanding as possible, and then we're talking about refining skills and in all sorts of ways, and we can make it a lot less demanding from the physical point of view. But if you were to put them side by side, ultimately, my legs will hurt more after a day of telemark skiing than parallel skiing.
I wonder if some of that comes from people that have tried it and have been kind of trying to do it, like you said, sort of from more of an alpine perspective, where all their weight is on the front leg. And you can see the people that are doing that, and they do look like they're doing a series of very hard lunges down the hill, which doesn't look like fun at all. It's not, that could be where that myth comes from, right?
It could be. And certainly if you're doing that and you're trying to ski the slopes that you used to ski when you're an alpine kid, you're going to be wrecked by the end of the morning. So it's in that situation, certainly with our own clients, we go back to the basics really, and rebuild skills on pre-heel equipment. From an alpine skier, we'll just take them skiing for half a day. Especially if it's the first day on pre-heel equipment, and not even mention telemark, because once they're confident on pre-heel equipment, and as we do that, we'll be adding in that two-footedness, making sure that the weight's more evenly distributed, between the inner and outer ski, refining their flex extension, the posture, because you have to be very accurate with your center, with your feet. You can't sort of lean on your heels or lean on your cuffs because you fall over.
Yeah.
So a lot of alpine skiers getting used to that, which is something which Nordic skiers are used to anyway. So that's where they have some strengths that they bring with them. But for alpine skiers who are perhaps very used to skiing very forward on their shins, they try doing the same on Telemark skis, and they'll be on their faces in no time, and they'll be very upset and embarrassed, but they get over it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So tangent complete for now.
Yeah. Sure.
So you were. So you said to me that you were qualified as a trainer for Nordic. Then I'm presuming and Telemark followed that.
Yeah.
And then you were sort of more latterly involved within BASI from a Telemark director point of view, and Nordic director, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the Nordic trainer and directorship. I mean, if you like, I dropped those quite a long time ago because for us, with our own business, Telemark was growing so strongly. I didn't have the time and the energy to devote to Nordic training and the Nordic directorship. So then, just focus on Telemark. I mean, we still go Nordic skiing, we still love it. It's just a wonderful activity for all sorts of reasons. But professionally, if you like, Telemark was the thing for us. And certainly within BASI, Telemark. I'm obviously I have been very involved in that for quite a long time.
Okay. So I'm going to jump into a little bit more Telemark specific.
Sure.
But in terms of the evolution of Telemark over time, I think if you pop on YouTube and you look at some of the videos from the 80s and 90s that are still up there, and then you see the evolution of how it's gone to the modern day.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Both from do you think that's driven by the equipment changes that have happened, or do you think that is just because it's become more popular, or it's a stylistic thing? Like, where do you saw the initial rise of it, and I'd say almost we're experiencing. I don't know whether the whole phrase "Telemark is dead" is still a thing, but I certainly see more and more. And it seems to be having a sort of another renaissance now, primarily, I'm guessing, through alpine skiers who are...
From our perspective, over the last, 40 years? It's over 40 years. I mean, I think I did my first Telemark turn in February 1982 on Corrie Cass. Since then, numbers grew, in particular in the 90s, and it grew and grew. I can come back to maybe the reasons why, and back to your original question,
for sure,
customer driven or equipment driven, etc., etc. But then once we got into the noughties, and up until the present time, it has plateaued. Compared to the rise back in the 90s. When our client numbers, year after year, were going up by 10 or 15% every year, and certainly, with discussions with boot manufacturers and everybody, they said, "Oh yeah, that was a time when sales really grew." But since I don't know. This millennium, I'm just talking quite generally, things have plateaued. So, for instance, the interest in BASI courses has diminished, compared to sort of 10 or 15 years ago. And certainly, in talking to equipment manufacturers, they agree. There just isn't that great increase that we had back in the 1990s, and there are reasons for that, which I can go into now or later.
Yeah, please do.
Or maybe if it just worked historically first of all, just to go back to the start of your question. And what I said originally, which was the North Americans picked up on Telemark because they were really into backcountry skiing, the Rockies and this sort of thing, and they were looking for something to facilitate what they were doing, in quite big mountain terrain.
Yeah.
So they picked up on the old photographs and descriptions of Telemark, and there was that initial renaissance. That renaissance came back to Europe. The Norwegians were, I think, a little bit myth. Well, myth is perhaps not quite the right word, but they did produce a book in the late 1980s, which was called Telemark, Norway's Gift to the World, which it was a lovely book, but it was just making the point, I think, that, in actual fact, Telemark came from Norway, which is entirely true.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But anyway, once it came back to Europe, it was growing strongly in North America. People realised, well, we need better skis. We can't do it in Nordic skis. We need an alpine ski. We need a boot that we can control the edges better, stiffer, so that we got stronger edge control, stronger support. So in the early 90s, people were putting Telemark bindings onto alpine skis, straight away. That made a lot of sense. And people started developing the boots to make them higher, stiffer. And there were some weird sort of leather plastic combinations, because the big thing is to maintain the flex in the forefoot. So initially it was a leather boot, but with a great big plastic cuff that was hinged at the ankle, so that you got the lower leg and ankle support to help your edge control, but you still had a really nice flex, in the leather forefoot.
Yeah.
So you could work your tellies nicely. And then the plastic Telemark, with bellows or similar, that started in the early 90s, and obviously that's the style of boot or the type of boot that we still use today. But certainly then, I think at the start, the growth in numbers was to do with the activity. And then because people were doing that activity on steeper slopes, harder snow, they needed better equipment. So the equipment developed to match that demand. And once that better equipment had developed, then alpine skiers found it more attractive or they found it easier to do because they're on an alpine ski, they're in a plastic boot. There's a lot of familiarity in the equipment. So the growth from alpine skiers was quite significant. And a few snowboarders as well thrown in for good measure. And so latterly, or I say latterly, I don't know, people are drawn to Telemark, I don't know, for a number of reasons. For me, just to perhaps help answer the question, for me, having a free heel, whether it's on Nordic equipment or Telemark, modern Telemark equipment, just gives me so much adaptability, if you like. If there's one word which is going to cover it, one pair of skis, I can do all sorts with it. From getting around on the flat, so I haven't got a heel to worry about, to getting fed up with skiing in the ski area, and let's put the skins on find a nice tour and find something like off Piste or something. It's all, it's the equipment that allows or gives me the greatest freedom to enjoy myself in the mountains in winter, if you like, as a pretty general statement. Occasionally I go back onto alpine equipment, and occasionally I'm using AT equipment with some of our groups, and it's all right. But the fact that you're shuffling everywhere and you have to flick switches and things to start going uphill and all the rest of it, it's fine. I have a good day. I can get some fantastic runs down and this sort of thing. But it's just it's all just a bit cumbersome, or a little bit more limiting. Whereas on like tele equipment, that sort of sense of freedom, the oft quoted "free your heel, free your mind" and stuff, which it is another discussion, but I'll leave that for a moment. But there is some truth. It gives me a lot of freedom, and a lot of people who I ski with feel the same. And it's something that, in terms of technique, it gives me the choice. So I can do anything that most people do on alpine skis, but I can telemark as well. And the feeling, the sensation of linking telemark turns down a slope of powder snow or good spring snow or something, those days stay. The memories linger. You can look back on days. That run, I remember that run. And that just sticks with you. And so building those types of memories for me is I get a lot of really good memories, as well as the experience in the moment, of course, because I'm on the equipment I choose to use.
With you mentioned something earlier just then, putting aside the issue of like freedom of the freedom of choice that the equipment gives you. Yeah. You've also talked about freedom of movement, and that's something that I've been reflecting on. I've Telemark quite a lot this season, and thank you. And I prefer it, to be honest with you, these days, because whenever I go back into an alpine boot, I feel really limited in the movements that my body can make just through the stiffness of that boot. That it has not got flexible snow, it hasn't the sole hasn't got the bellows, it hasn't got the movement in the ankle joint that you can pick up through telemark skiing, and you open up a whole new range of movement, personal movement within your body, and a whole different way of expressing yourself on the mountain. Compared to an alpine boot that's only got a certain amount of forward flex at the ankle joint.
Yeah, I mean, and to guess, I suspect that you would have found the mental challenge, the if you like, the challenge of putting your skills, that your alpine skills onto telemark skis would be very engaging as well. That's what I always find. I'm just sort of wondering if you find the same.
I kind of almost find it a completely different sport, if I'm honest. It's one is getting your head around the possibilities, I think, is one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The sheer number of different ways that it can be done. I like the fact that it has less sort of inbuilt rules compared to alpine skiing. So there's no real way to skin a cat, if you like. With telemark, you see so many different people doing it different ways. And I think that's because I think, just reflecting on it right now, that is because the equipment allows the difference in people's bodies to really express itself. More so than in alpine, where you do get a bit of variation, but essentially everyone's in the same kind of boot. Whereas the differences in people's bodies shows up more if you've got more range of movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and a lot of people, say in the telemark world, when you're having these sorts of discussions, will say something similar. And a lot of the sort of the telemark specific Facebook pages and things, some of the stuff you see in there, you think, okay. So yes, there is a lot of freedom, and a lot of people, sort of freedom, yes, in inverted commas. I mean, a lot of people are skiing on telemark skis and doing all sorts of slightly weird-looking stuff. So I'm just giving you it's almost like a counter perspective, if you like, on what you said.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's something that concerns me, if you like. Because in the end, whether you're an alpine skier, a snowboarder, a telemark skier, a Nordic skier, you're on something that is designed to slide and is designed to turn. Maybe not so much for the pure Nordic stuff, which are not designed to turn at all. So whether you're on a snowboard, as an example, or a telemark ski, the message that you give to the ski is essentially the same. And if you want to ski, I don't know, spring snow, or if you want to ski a good piste or an icy piste, the messages that the performer needs to give to their ski or board are pretty much the same. So, for me, and certainly for BASI Telemark, and I know a lot of other telemark skiers across Europe, the focus is then, okay, yes, free your heel, free your mind. You can be different people can ski in different ways. Okay. The next challenge is the next challenge is if you want to ski a slope as efficiently as possible and effectively as possible. So then you have to reconcile the skills that you're using. You have to decide, well, if I'm telemarking, it's a steep slope of firm snow. What do I need to do? So what I'm suggesting is that in the end, if a skier on telemark skis wants to ski a slope, an environment as effectively and as efficiently as possible, then what the telemark skiers are doing, they would tend to reach something which is relatively similar, as opposed to something which is far more diverse between telemark skiers. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, because I understand your position, where you're coming from, which is essentially a ski is a ski, right? And if whether you've got an alpine or a telly binding on it,
if the ski's going to work, you've got to give it that message.
Yeah, you have to put in the right inputs for that right situation. I think
if you're not bothered about that ski working especially well, then you don't have to bother. You see some telemark skiers. Screaming around the slope in a very low, long stance, and they're having fun, fine. As long as they don't run into anybody else, that's fine as well. But I guess if I took that type of telemark skier onto a relatively narrow slope of spring snow or something, they would be bouncing off the rock walls on either side or something like that. Or if you took them into a bumps field as well, they'd hit a bump and take off and land on their heads. I'm generalising, but it's what I am after, and certainly what we're after in BASI Telemark is developing strong, adaptable skiers. So they've got the skill set and the understanding that they can telemark anywhere they choose to do so, and they can make the changes to as appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. It does make sense. It's just, I think
that's the last 30 years.
Well, I think probably what I'm trying to say is that you have, I don't know, maybe so you are putting in the same, you need to still have the same inputs because of the equipment that's under your feet.
Yeah.
But the way
the thing is,
you do have a little bit more freedom of movement in order to be able to get those inputs into the snow.
You need to be, you need to be free with your movements, but you need to be precise with them at the same time. So, the classic thing between an alpine skier and a telemark skier, classically an alpine skier is skiing on their outer ski more than on their inner ski. I know that changes, but I'm just generalizing. And so if you're turning to the right, your right ski isn't really helping the turn very much. But as soon as you separate fore and aft, then as we've already mentioned, if you're not using your inside ski very much and you're in a telemark position, you'll end up on your head.
Yes.
So then, and this is basic tele instruction stuff, then you need to give the same input, pressure, edge, rotation to the trailing, your inside ski, as your leading or outer ski. And once you do that, away you go. Yeah.
And could it be argued then that you have twice as much of control going into the snow?
You could do.
Rather than, say, 90-10 on the outside ski in alpine.
Yeah. I've just been a bit reluctant to agree 100% because it's something I've never actually tested or looked at in a comparative sort of way. But certainly, you say going into the off-piste, an alpine skier needs to be more 50-50 because they are then better balanced, better controlled, especially once you got a third dimension in what you're skiing, once the snow is soft underneath you. So
there's a
there's
a written project in there for someone, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
pressures on skis varying between Telemark and alpine in a given turn.
Yeah.
Right in 10 pages. Yeah. Okay.
I'd be interested to read the outcome.
If you're doing that written project, anyone, send it in to us. We want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And here's so we talked about the modern, because the modern bindings are really quite extraordinary, aren't they? I ski the NTN Freedom binding because it suits what I do.
Me too.
I'm not that much into alpine touring as such.
I use the Freedom and the Free Ride, so if I'm touring, I use the Free Ride.
Yeah, okay.
Which way around is it? Always get mixed up.
Yeah, I'm using the Free Ride, I think, which is more of a
The Free Ride is the chunkier one.
Yeah, like messing around.
Freedom is the touring version.
Yeah, that's it.
A lot of plastic in it.
That's it. And some of the other ones that I've seen that are also, they connect using the what's that called? The 2-pin system.
Yeah. Very, very similar to Alpine touring setup.
Yeah, a lot of the guys around here use that, and they seem to love it. They think it's really, really good. I haven't quite got
it is. Yet. Yeah, it just costs a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So someone gives me a pair. I'm stuck on NTN at the moment on free rides and freedom.
Yeah.
But the Meadow binding, or in Wild as they're called, is actually an excellent binding. It's been developed by Mouillard in France, and the amount of money he's put into it, I don't know where he gets his money from, but he's come up with something which is very lightweight. It's now easy to use, and you can ski, and then you can also get a heel piece to convert it into an alpine binding as well if you want.
Yeah.
So it's sort of going full circle. But some of that binding stuff out at the moment is fantastic. Yeah.
Have you ever done that with the freeride binding? They put some sort of alpine heel piece, or not an alpine, or maybe like a touring heel piece in, so that you could fix your heel if you wanted to. Let's say that you were planning to Telemark in the afternoon, but you had a beginner alpine lesson in the morning. Have you seen that before? No. Would you recommend?
I mean, some people do some weird stuff. The Americans, in particular, they do some really weird stuff with their telly stuff. They're really into sort of home workshop, sort of they call them Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's it.
Frankenstein ideas. But for me, just to go back to your last question there, to do anything like that, the chances of breaking the leg are suddenly increased by 100%.
Yeah.
No way. Just for that scenario you suggested, quite often if I'm working with a mixed group, a lot of our clients are, especially for off-piste and touring, there will be a mix of alpine and telemark skiers.
Oh, right.
So if I'm doing a school session, say at the start of the week, and I'm parallel skiing, and everybody's parallel skiing, alpine skiers and telemark skiers, then I ski parallel, and it's all the alpine skiers. Any freehill skier who goes alpine skiing, parallel turning, if that's the right way to put it. You have to ski accurately. As I mentioned before, you have to be well centered, well flexed, and not rely on the boot in the same way as you do in alpine skis.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I find it's I do that often, and it's slightly harder on the legs because you can't. My habit when I'm alpine skiing is to really I rely a lot on the front of the boot, and you don't have that option really.
I don't know if you have the same feeling, but sometimes when I've been on telly kit and going to alpine kit, when I go onto alpine kit, I feel like I'm skiing like a god. Because I'm coming from the more difficult equipment to the easier equipment, if you like.
Yeah.
But going the other way from alpine to telly, it takes a bit of readjustment. I mean, you get there quite quickly because I'm used to doing it. But you're then going from the easier equipment, if you like, to the more difficult equipment.
Yeah.
And you just have to remind yourself a few things about, ankles do flex, and wherever I've got my arms and.
I wouldn't sure I've ever described myself as skiing like a god. That's like no one has ever said that. So about me, and I've never said that about myself. So there's
not
too many.
Your alpine trainer.
No, absolutely not. There's and there's too many people around here who do genuinely ski like gods to even make that comparison with yourself. So
where are you?
No, I'm based in Valdilier, and we're in that sort of in the Porte de Soleil, and there's a lot of good skiers around here, but they don't really talk about it. They're just good, and they're just a guy.
Sure. Yeah.
The best skier I know around here has just given up skiing, and he's a policeman now, and it breaks my heart to see it. But I guess he's got a young family, he needs the money to support himself. But the my goodness, like he's the most, and you wouldn't know, he's not on social media or anything like that. He's better than anyone I've ever seen.
Brilliant.
There's guys like that all over Switzerland, all over the place. As I am sure is France.
It's nice when there are people out there just skiing brilliantly and doing their own thing and enjoying it, and they don't have to justify it to themselves or anybody else by putting it on social media.
Absolutely. If it didn't go on social media, does it really exist though?
It didn't happen. Yeah.
Interesting,
but that's probably another podcast, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, a bit more esoteric. I've got. I realise we've been going a long time. I've got 2 more questions for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
As I understand it, and I'm asking this purely for a selfish point of view, is that the BASI Telemark 2 hardly ever runs. Is it because of lack of demand? And the second part of that question is it why is it 2 weeks? Because presumably everyone who's on it has already done teaching modules from elsewhere.
Yes, but all right. So sort of a bit of context.
Yeah.
So level 1, they do quite well because other BASI members need a second discipline, and some people choose to do that, as opposed to snowboard or adaptive or whatever. Then, if you're going to level 2 and to level 3, which is the issue that you're talking about, whether the courses run and or why not, there are relatively few people who want to go to the level 2 and level 3 because they don't see a way of being financially rewarding. If they're starting a skiing career and they want to do what you're doing in the Alps or work for you or anybody else out there, then obviously alpine or possibly snowboard is the logical route to be sure of work and income. The numbers of people out there who make a living out of Telemark is, I'm not sure there's enough, if there's any fingers on the hand to actually count them with. I mean, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's probably the wrong way of using that metaphor. But anyway, you get the picture. The numbers of people only Telemark are very, very small. So, I mean, for ourselves, going back, I mean, yes, there was a time when Telemark was a thing, but latterly, say, the last 15 years, the mix has been with alpine skiers who want to do the type of skiing or go to the places that we go to. If we didn't do that, then we would have gone very hungry, basically. And I can't think of anywhere else in Europe, or probably even North America, where anybody can say get a level 3 Telemark and make a living out of it. So, just to go back to the original question, the number of people going to level 2 and level 3, I mean, there's obviously more to level 2, and then some to level 3, has become very small, and I think that's the main reason. It's not seen as a useful discipline to have in a ski instructor's career on the whole. But there's other people who do it because they want to do it. They love the discipline. They enjoy the process of becoming qualified and skiing with like-minded people, developing their free-heel skills, their downhill free-heel skills, along with the Telemark-specific stuff. And I think quite a number of them will teach some Telemark in the Alps because they're in a situation where their ski school or that they work for or the company that they run themselves do offer that. And I think really that's it. It's people just don't see it as a viable future for themselves on its own.
Yeah. I mean, that's the experience. I have spoken to various people who are Telemark specialists, and there's very few people that. It's just not the volume of hours, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
There that people want to learn. And I think there's a lot of people out there trying to teach themselves, or they pick it up from Alpine, so they don't really take lessons as such. And so it's it's a real.
I mean, as I mentioned before, I mean, the way that we made it more worthwhile was by moving around and sort of using that as a way to attract people or attract the same people to come on another week or whatever, was by, offering one resort and then later in the season, somewhere else, and they think, let's go there as well, and do some day touring as well or whatever. From season to season. If they'd done Latvia 1 year and then they come and did a week in Switzerland or wherever, it just helps to draw them in.
You kind of you sort of package it up with something else, right? And that'd be the way to do it.
A little bit.
Okay. All right. The last thing that I was wanting to ask you was just to loop back, actually.
Sorry, Dave, just to go back to the level 2 thing. I mean, what BASI have been quite a bit about latterly is actually putting level 2s and level 3s together now. So a course can run. So the last, I'm just trying to think, the last couple of years, a combined level 2 and level 3 has run. I've run some mixed levels in the past, and they're a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Depending, an experienced trainer should be able to cope. And then you may have to divide people at some points or whatever, but the actual challenges, the slopes, the terrain, etc., are the same, but the level that the skier performs at will need to differ, of course. But in terms of making these courses run, that has been a good way of working. And the other thing, because he did ask about why 2 weeks rather than 1 week. Yes, because people have obviously come in from, say, Alpine, they've done the teaching, but the difference is that generic teaching, tick, Telemark teaching, that's the area that can be trained and developed and ultimately assessed in that 2 week period. So it's the specifics of teaching, the technical specifics, if you like, of teaching Telemark, which demand that time, if you like.
Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, so it's not like you can just teach, therefore,
you can teach Telemark.
Yeah.
You could go out there and teach something, but I think your customer might be dissatisfied at the end of it.
Yeah.
Teach something very well.
That's right. I was thinking more in terms of like revisiting things like teaching styles or teaching,
Yeah, certainly the level 2s I've done, for an example, that is referred to and understanding and experience is assumed. It is. I would check it as people do their teaching sessions, and it could become an issue. And there's been once or twice when people have come through and I've said to them, "Oh, so sorry, but it's just not working." And there might be quite good teaching Telemark as well, but for some reason their generic teaching skills have fallen by the wayside or something like that. But you sort of assume that they're okay with their generic teaching, and it allows us to focus on how to teach Telemark in particular.
Okay.
Which is great. Yeah.
Cool. I tell you what, I'm going to leave my last question for another time or another chat, because I suspect it'll add on another 20 minutes or so, and I don't want to keep. There's a certain kind of length of time that works really, really well for interviews, and I don't want to kind of exceed that too much.
You could give me the question, and if I say it needs a long answer, then I could let you know.
All right, well, let's go with it. No, I tell you what it was then. It was just to expand on the Telemark progressions that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Now, what do we think? Is this long to get involved in or short to get involved in?
Well, there's different ways. What I was starting to say earlier on was why we have them and the context of them. And if you like, I could finish that answer because I touched on cloud to Telemark and parallel to Telemark.
Well, if you've got the time to, then let's do it.
Well, that won't take very long. Okay. So, going back to 1994.
Yeah, it seems so long ago now.
How can we teach this stuff that we're going to decide that we can teach? So one of the things, just using the Scottish context, when sometimes you'd be on a patch of snow on the side of Cairngorm or around in Corrigan sector or something, is how can you teach turning on a patch of snow beside of a tennis court or something like that. So the fan progression, which used to be a part of the easy Alpine stuff way back, just for teaching parallel turns, for us, well, that seemed like a valid way of develop the skill set needed to make a telemark turn on a small patch of snow. So literally walking up the side and doing sequent traverses, which end in a gentle turn, sharper turn, and so on, until you can traverse and cross the fall line and make your first C-shaped turn. So that approach in a situation of limited snow or limited terrain, or maybe possibly even limited space in an alpine resort, we felt valid. So the plan progression has persisted. And I do use that approach on occasion, mixed in with other things, because obviously once you do a single turn, you very quickly want to be able to do 2, 3, 20, 30 turns, and then you need the space. But as a way of just sort of skiing in some useful skills at an early stage, I find it works quite well. And then you change what you do. So that's the plan progression. The teleworms concept, I'm sort of assuming that you're familiar with that. Is that a yes?
Go on. I think you have to assume no knowledge. I know what you're talking about, but
yeah, okay.
Maybe no one else does.
I mean, originally it was thinking of, well, can there be sort of a direct way into making telemark turns? You're assuming you've got a parallel skier. Maybe we can sort of have a system that starts at the top of the slope, and by the bottom of the slope, you're making telemark turns. So it does work, and it can work whenever, and I demonstrate it and get people to do it, obviously on BASI courses. The choice of terrain is critical, because it has to be really, really flat. Not dead flat, but so that your initial shush or glide is going to be at a pace when you start doing things with it. Because obviously if you're going straight down the blue slope, it's just too steep. Because once you start your lead change movement, and once you start to add in some rotation or a little bit of edge to start to make some basic turn shapes, which you can then fill out and develop and make more rounded, you need to be going at a travelling speed which is very slow, and your lead change rhythm needs to be quite slow as well, because there's no point in starting a lead change rhythm boom, 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 because if it's at that tempo and then you're starting to turn, it's just too fast.
Yeah.
So you get the picture. So getting everything set up is really important, and to be honest, it's not an approach I use very often, and more perhaps as a activity in developing skills, which might be two-footed rotation through a lead change or subtle edge changes and things like that, rather than introducing telemark itself. But it's still there. It's thought of as we agreed. Okay, let's just leave it. It can work. It is also very, very useful, like I say, at a later stage with a more advanced telemarker, for the reasons I just mentioned. The plan to telemark, we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
And interestingly, having travelled around Europe a lot and been with my telemark skiers in some countries, and in Norway in particular, as I understand, or certainly understood, a plough to a telemark traverse, linking turns down the slope, so that you're ploughing, telemark traversing, traversing, is the way of introducing the telemark.
Okay.
So that you're going through the fall line in a familiar plough, you reach a good traversing speed, comfortable with it, you're not going to accelerate. You can sink into your telly, do a nice telly traverse and say, I'm a dude.
Yeah.
Stand up, plough around and do the same the other way. and then you diminish the amount of time that you're in the plough.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does work fine, and it works probably better with people who are used to doing an accurate snow plough, which is, and that they are able to adjust the edge on both skis, so that as you go from a plough to a telemark, in effect, you're going from the inside edge of your inside ski to the outside edge of your inside ski as you go around to the telemark, which for some people is quite complex. But if people have that skill, then that works fine. And then parallel to telemark is, I find that works very well. As a good way to actually be skiing, if you're skiing along quite happily, and then very much as a part of your day, well, let's add in, we're all skiing well, okay, let's add in a word of telemark in between each turn. And back into your parallel to make your turn, round you go, feel happy, back to the floor line, okay, tele again. So a very similar approach to the plough to telemark, but probably more appropriate and more fun, if you like, more enjoyable to the majority of people. So, just to go back to what I was saying earlier on, there's a choice, a framework for aspirant instructors, and as I do, and many other tele trainers when they're out working, doing their own stuff, it's actually mixing some of those to produce, linked telemark turns, which is, the end of the process. So it's a bit of background anyway to why and the how of the telemark progressions.
What do you see when if I may ask, what do you see when you're teaching telemark? Where's the common thing, if there is any commonality between, if you see things that come up again and again, what might they be when you're teaching telemark? Is it the unfamiliarity with having a split stance and how to control that? Because that activates a whole bunch of muscles that people don't usually use, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, for anybody, effectively working both skis in your telemark in the turn, and also the other, the thing I sort of talk about quite a lot with our own clients is it's not so much the turn itself, which is the challenge, it's the lead change, from one turn to the next. So if you like, anybody can be in tele stance and they'll make a C shape in the turn, but linking effectively in a strong, functional, adaptable way to the next turn, the lead change, that's the real challenge.
Yeah.
So if you like, okay, one part will be working both skis, in particular working the rear ski effectively. The next part is linking one tele turn to the next. So typically you see people say doing a tele turn, they'll stand up and there'll be what we call a parallel pause.
Yeah.
So that should be in an alpine position for a couple of microseconds or whatever, and then sink down into a tele again.
Yeah.
So what we're after is a flowing, continuous movement from one turn to the next.
Yes.
Flowing and continuous in that the change in the lead ski is done, without a pause, and with appropriate change of edge and pressure as you're doing that. And that's a real challenge, and certainly, with level 2 skiers, they can be a bit flummoxed by that sometimes, because they sort of think they're linking teles, which they are, but then we ask for this smooth, simultaneous lead change rather than anything which is sequential and or possibly a bit steady as well. A bit like early parallel skiing. Again, trying to keep the skis parallel right through the whole process. I think those are probably the two areas.
Yeah, I think that's what separates newish Telemark skiers from those that have really been doing it a long time is the skill in which you blend the lead change with the edge change, the timing, slope angle, all that.
Lead change, I mean, especially once you get into the strands, the lead change, say, in bump skiing on steeps is critical. And if that lead change isn't efficient in the bumps, you'll be on your head.
Yes.
And likewise on the steeps. It's the moguls are a superb discipline for good lead changing. Go out and do it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's that again. It's the challenge, the intellectual challenge of the Telemark as you get into more demanding terrain. It keeps you going for years.
I think it is that. It's just that added complexity, isn't it, of lead change at the moment at which you go through the transition. You blend that in with rotation and everything else. It's just another thing to be thinking about.
Yeah, and when you get it right, you know it.
Yes. Absolutely, you feel it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. Good. Well, that's a perfect line to end it on, I think. I want everyone who comes on this gets a chance to sort of plug themselves and what they're doing, assuming that you will want more customers for the business that you run. If not, feel free to tell them not to call you. But if people needed to find you,
I mean, what I would say, because I sort of alluding to it earlier on. I mean, our business as such, the off-piste and Telemark ski company. Originally the Telemark ski company, we are winding it down. Our website is what's the word? Dormant.
Okay. So do not call this man if you want to go on holiday.
But anybody is welcome to contact me and see what we can do, because this guy's been in touch, I fancy drinking Telemark over the chill factory, and said, great, let's fix up a date or whatever it might be.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Or
so is that where they could get in touch with you, or is there a better place?
Oh no, just get in contact with me direct on. There's still a Facebook page with an email link there.
Okay. So I'll find that, and then I'll leave that in the.
But I mean, just leave it like that because there'd be problems with other people then.
Okay.
Like the tax man and.
Perfect.
Well, that's so. But what I would perhaps encourage people to do, if in particular thinking of Asian members, if they're, give it a go. It is so demanding in a good way. It's absolutely it's interesting, and it's great for your skiing anyway. There's many. I think even the British development squad, and I know the Austrian ski racers, they do Telemark because it's critical to be in the right place on the skis. And that goes from the flattest green slope to the Hallenkam or whatever, and so it's a really useful discipline to do. I mean, as a secondary discipline, it's great, but to take on a little bit further as well. And for anybody who's really into the skiing, it really adds a new dimension to their skiing, but also their recreational skiing. And probably a little bit like you've been saying yourself, Dave. There's something else to go and do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think I'll probably just leave it there, really.
Perfect. All right. Well, look, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. I really, really appreciate it.
A pleasure. Yeah.